and welcome back to my video. So today we are gonna actually kind of play around with Adilson Farias's watercolor set. I say kind of because the first drawing that I did with it, which is the one that you'll see today, I didn't have a good grasp of how to use the brushes. I thought I didn't. I went in feeling confident and like it was all gonna be good. And I quickly realized that I muddied the colors really quickly. Things were just too dark. I was way too heavy-handed. And so while I think that the drawing was really nice, and I think that the watercolor execution, if it had been done correctly, would be really nice, I think the overall image needs some work. And it's something that I'll go back and probably rework in the future. But overall, it's an okay drawing. It definitely doesn't illustrate how good the brushes are, and in my next video I'll show you a much better rendition of a painting with those brushes. But for today I'll be drawing Mr. Darcy, which will kind of be a theme. We drew him previously in a little sketch. We're gonna watercolor him today, and then actually I am gonna show you guys a painting of him that I did recently in Procreate that I'm just so proud of. It looks really, really good, and it's kind of spurred me towards a different painting style altogether, and that's an exciting thing because anytime that you feel like you found a style, I don't know, it just gives you a little extra energy, a little pep in your step. So today we're gonna watch the watercolor speed paint of my Darcy that I drew on Procreate, and then we'll kind of do a little voiceover about my thoughts throughout and kind of what's going on and where I think I was successful and where I think I was not. And feel free to put me on in the background. You can either watch the video with me or you can just listen to the chatty voiceover. I know that I kind of like listening to things in the car, so if you're driving, please be careful. Don't wreck. That would be really bad. So I will see you in the next clip.
And here we are. So this is actually how it ended up. Unfortunately, I actually went back to remake this specific painting, and I guess I didn't make a copy, which is crazy. I always make a copy. And so, unfortunately, we do not have like an exported image without all that extra like reference imagery on it. I'll have to go and see if I can find something on Instagram where maybe I posted this previously, but I know at the time I was really unhappy with it, and so I feel like I subconsciously like deleted all the evidence of this drawing. And I'm not even mad about it because I really am disappointed with the coloring. Now, the drawing, these features turned out really, really well. I'm really happy about the way that I was able to get a likeness, even though I think even the likeness is a little off. And there's a point where I put the photo over my drawing and I'm like, what is going on here? And I think it's something that I forget about when drawing on an iPad, that it's definitely a perspective issue. And if you have your iPad flat, just like if you were doing traditional drawing, your perspective is going to be off. And I think, unfortunately, like I was drawing this in my chair and watching TV, and even though that is the best part and the most convenient part of having the iPad, it's also kind of like the downfall of the iPad is that you get a little too comfortable and then you're like, why isn't this working out? And it's because you're not paying attention to like the details, which if I was drawing traditionally, I would probably have had it on my easel or on like one of my little table mounts where it's at an angle. And so I really think it all came down to just for the drawing part, at least like the base sketch, that I just didn't have it at the right angle, and so that was really making me struggle. And I think sometimes it's actually easier to have reference photos outside of like your drawing space, so like an actual physical reference photo, or like on a different screen like your phone or your laptop. I noticed that having them on the screen together kind of threw me off a little bit. I don't know if it just interrupted like the normal flow of like kind of checking back and forth and filling in gaps with just like your creative artistic knowledge. Having it just right there where I could see it, I think I relied too heavily on it, which, as artists probably already know, the more that you rely on a reference, kind of the more stilted that your drawing can be, and the less like lifelike, which is so silly, but it becomes like a poor imitation of life instead of like something that has like soul of its own. So anyway, that's a whole tangent, but I really think it was just kind of my reference, let me tell you, not to make this all about, like it's everybody else's fault. I am not a smart person when it comes to references, and I like to pick references that are poorly lit, poor poor quality. And so I was using a reference from a bundle of screen caps that I have from Pride and Prejudice. And so they're not edited, they're not brightened, they're not sharpened. And I think what I was really having a struggle with is the lighting was leaving like too many vague areas for me. And I'm trying to make a detailed sketch, and yet I have like a vague, shadowy image that I'm working from. And so, in some ways, I think as the artist, we often make things harder on ourselves. So, about halfway through the painting process, I actually went and got a different screen cap from online that it wasn't the same picture of him. It was actually a different photo with better lighting. And so I just applied that lighting to this photo, which felt, yeah, here's where I'm like, what is happening? And just everything was just a little bit off. But because I was really trying to be detailed and like really realistic instead of just like guessing and being a little more artistic with it, it was just, it was such an experience. So, anyway, this is the photo that I was actually referencing and that I was, really drawing from, which I mean, I truly thought it had enough detail. I was like, this is a good reference, but there was something going on with like the nose. The nose was like just a little like shadowed, but not quite shadowed. And then the hair had that kind of like harsh highlight on it that was like, I was struggling. And then now looking back at it, I can see how large I made the hair and that the jawline is not at quite the right angle. And I think that's because his neckline was throwing me off because his little handkerchief thing is kind of like right at his jawline with that white highlight. And so at this point, I was like, I mean, it's cute. It could be recognizable, but like it's still just not right. Something is wrong. And it's really that jawline. He actually has quite a soft jawline. Um and I've made it just so harsh and also given it a little bit too much of a low angle. So if that's even how you say that. But basically like that jaw that you're seeing um under the ear, the visible ear is just like a little too broad. If you really look at his reference photo, it's more sloping. Now, this is where I should have left it. Like this style of coloring actually has color and looks so nice. And then I ruin it. I make it so dark and just continue struggling. And it's just kind of like, why did I do that when I knew better? I knew I wanted bright colors. Um, and I actually start trying to mix colors with these brushes, but I quickly realized that they are not built for mixing. Like that is one thing that I feel like this did for me is it allowed me to realize like, okay, these A are not built for mixing and B are not meant for layering per se. Like they're really meant to be washes. And so me going in with like these really heavy colors did not go well. And like I said, the coloring before was actually really successful. And then I start doing this because I'm trying to mimic what I'm comfortable with in real painting, which is like color mixing. But that doesn't work because these are supposed to be washes and they're digital and it's really more of a flat color lay situation. So then I went back to basics and I'm like, this is terrible. Maybe if I do some shadows, I can just lay color on top of that, kind of like a multiply layer. And that was a terrible idea too. So, just long story short, there was so much potential in this. And yet I just couldn't get it there. And that happens. The first time that you mess with a supply, you just don't know what you're doing. And I ended up getting it to a point where I was like, you know what? I'm done, whatever. Like, I'll try again later. And I end up trying again on another piece, and it was so much more successful. But I knew better what I was doing at that point. I kind of actually went back to what I was doing originally in this with the really light, bright washes. And I think that's where these shine. They're definitely meant for more of a maybe almost like, I don't want to say children's book illustration style, but that's kind of the vibes that they give me. Like very bright, very primary, and not a ton of blending. You can blend, but I think they're strongest whenever you're doing like really strong, um, like fill-ins basically. Um, Let me see if I can find an example to show you kind of what I mean. Because I don't want you to think you can't get really good paintings out of this. This is definitely what I should have done, but I just went so dark. It was like the longer that I tried, the worse I got. I should have just walked away, which is like such a theme in all my videos. If I get frustrated, I just need to walk away. This was the original in the beginning, and I should have stuck with that sort of coloring because that's obviously what was really successful. But as I went, I didn't have an ability to go back and reference that because obviously I was erasing and creating as I went. And I think if I had been able to go back, and maybe I should start watching my speed paints back in Procreate, I would have quickly realized, whoa, I overworked this so bad. Like, I'm trying to save a piece that just does not need to be saved. It needs to go back to its roots, and that would have been so much more successful. But like, I hope that seeing this process helps you in some way. And I hope that you don't take this as a negative towards the brushes because that was definitely user error. And in the future, I think I know how to utilize these better now. Definitely needs to be, you know, bright, saturated washes and not be used in a way that maybe I'm used to using digital art, which is good. I think it takes talent to work these and hard practice, and I'm excited to practice some more with these. So I'll see you guys in the next video. Bye!